Welcome to the Watching Humans podcast,
with
Skyjack podcast, Point Raise podcast.
with Skyward Thomas of Watching Humans and the Shame of Point Reyes and me, Jack Kashite of the Tree Spirit Project and consultant as well for In Defense of Animals, although I'm speaking in my Tree Spirit role today. Lest I say anything naughty.
I was interested in asking you about your event this weekend, but I know you're chomping at the bit to start us off with something else. Do you want to talk about how the weekend went before we Jesus, you have a filter and a half on.
This is all.
And your connection sucks.
Well, the connection I can't do anything about. The filtering it was all automatic. We're using a new platform today, folks. So we're podcasting.
Well, the bad connection platform that puts a filter on Jack's face, which is good news for all of us.
Spoken like a guy. Settings. Actually, I can do this. Hang on. Here we are. Touch up my appearance.
You're just like a paintbrushed face and blue eyes.
How about now?
It may be a little bit less.
Hang on.
Who's in our Paula? Good morning, Paula. How's Jack looking?
How now?
Starting to see.
Yeah, you see
a little more definition.
Okay. Sorry.
Boy, were you pretty for a second there.
I was that was AI Jack. I pushed him aside. I'm back now for real.
Oh,
Avatar Jack. God help us. We're joking, but that's the way it's going.
Yeah. Can you imagine dating? You have no idea who's actually going to turn up. Or do people ever actually encounter each other now, or is the entire relationship virtual?
Increasingly so, sure. We got to do a show just on AI. I'd want to know in the chat if people want to just talk about AI. I was talking with a friend of mine who should know better. He's like, well, no, it's got some good stuff too. I don't know. And I'm like, oh my God, just the cluelessness of the power it gives corporations to run our lives versus, wait a sec. There's that, actually, we should do a show just because there's one brilliant comic who does Bob Ross, the painter who does watercolors.
Yeah, of course.
And he does a spoof of it and he gets the voice down perfectly. He's like, now I'm here to show you painting with AI. And he just does a brilliant, it's basically a blistering critique of AI, but posing as a Bob Ross painter guy.
Don't use your mind or any talent or your body. Tell a machine to do it for you.
And the irony is, the machines were, the sell in our commercial culture where everything is being pitched to us with slogans is, we're going to make your life easier. Alana's, everybody's going to have 3 robots to, drive you somewhere, although driving used to be fun. Or they're not going to do your dishes or say you don't have to work to pay for things. You still have to have a job to buy those robots, but those are the jobs that will be taken away. And instead, robots will be doing our artwork for us and making love to the things we should be doing with other humans and enjoy.
I got to tell you, I find it interesting seeing signs. I've actually seen signs that say, stop hiring humans here because they're so caught up in their techie world. And whatever we come up with is great. No hesitation. And Jack, it's bothering me. You got to take that filter off your face. You still look great.
Hang on. I'm happy to. Let's see.
Or give it to me.
No, it's okay. Actually, here it is. I thought it was a matter of degree. There it is. It's unchecked. Sorry, it was automatically lost. How's that? Now you got some gristle here. I haven't shaved in 100 days. So
spoon feed me, says Paula. That must be directed to you.
Hi, Paula. Good morning. Paula was amazing. She was out in the world in the 4th of July parade that I have chosen not to talk about at the moment because I'm as you say. Well, you say chomping because you're a vegan. I say champing because I'm a vegan too. At the bit to show you a few things. I wanted to start us off today because I tripped into a clip from 1960, the year of my birth.
1960.
1960. So that's 65 years ago. There's a social psychologist named Erich Fromm, F-R-O-M-M, German-American immigrant who fled the Nazis in 1934, which is about where we are, maybe 1935 in this country, with rising fascism and people who don't get it, or they think the system is so broken that we have to resort to fascism to get out of it. Anyway, this guy's talking about the threat of nuclear war, which was then the existential threat. It still is, but I would say climate crisis is more immediate, which we're seeing the effects of now in Texas and flooding in North Carolina, et cetera, et cetera. And then there's the denialism, of course. So this guy has a comment about the malaise of our society, and a couple other things. This is a 16-minute clip. I just want to show a minute and a half. I just want to show a minute and a half. And if you like it, you and I will talk about maybe doing a show on more of the content of it. I think you're going to like what this guy says. So I'm going to try to share the screen now, if I may. Is that okay?
Yep, let's see it.
Okay, great. So let me get my screen set over here. Stand by, folks. We don't have operators doing this for us, but I think I know how to use this platform. Okay. Entire screen. Got it. Share. And let's hopefully you can hear sound here. Ready? Oh, wait. Are you seeing it? No.
Before pressing a screen, remove other media.
I have done that. I've got a second screen with just this video ready to play. Oh, I see. I've got to click on it. Huh. Thanks, folks. Bear with us. That's not it. That's your video. There it is. Thank you. Ready? So that's the screen I'm going to be showing to, assuming it takes two of us apparently to do this. So here we go.
You think that...
You got sound?
I do.
Great. Here we go. It's just going to show a minute and a half of. This is a 16-minute clip that I tripped onto YouTube. Eric Fromm, social psychologist, speaking in 1960 about nuclear war, but just slip in the words climate crisis.
American society is a realistic society.
Indeed, I don't think that at all. I think we are probably one of the most unrealistic societies which have ever lived under the sun.
Now, in what respect?
Well, we kid ourselves.
Could you put our faces on the screen too, Skyler, so that people know it's Skyjack if they tune in? Is that excellent? Thank you, sir. Great. Continuing.
About love. We kid ourselves about our aims. We kid ourselves about our individuality when actually we are conforming all the time. But I could give, and I want to give, a much more decisive and important example, and that is our attitude toward the threat of the self-destruction of the whole world. We sit here, we know that there is a good chance that not only this country, but our whole civilization, all we stand for, our children and grandchildren will be destroyed, completely destroyed by an atomic war.
Climate crisis.
And yet we talk glibly about it. We have signs for shelter in cities in which we know there will be no shelter if a hydrogen bomb falls on them.
Climate crisis.
We talk about all sorts of measures. We talk about victorious war. We talk glibly about if war comes, then, without an awareness, except mere intellectually, that if war comes, this is the end of all of us. And for a whole society, and this is not only America, this is practically the whole world, if you would find one person in New York City or any other big city who plays around with a bomb which could kill only thousands of people, and there's a 50-50 chance that it might go off, and he would say, well, I'm just trying it out, and well, if the people get killed, it's just too bad, I would regret it, but it might be necessary. You know very well where this man would land, while practically our whole population behaves in the same manner. Everybody knows the possibility of the suicide of the human race, and only very few people are truly aware of it. If that is not lack of realism, I don't know what it is.
Spoken of this lack of realism as one thing in our society working against mental health. Are there other things?
Yes, Mr. Smith, I would say practically everything. Our culture is concerned primarily with production and consumption of things.
Production and consumption of things.
And in this process of being primarily concerned with things, the ever-increasing production, the ever-increasing consumption, we ourselves transform ourselves into things without knowing. We lose our individuality in spite of the fact that we talk a lot about it. We follow leaders who don't lead. We believe that we are acting on our own impulses and convictions and opinions, when actually we are manipulated by a whole industry, by slogans, and yet Nobody has any true aim. We are
Okay, I could go on. It's just wonderful stuff. I'm going to stop. Okay.
Yeah, you got to stop because we've got 3 shows worth of material right there.
Yeah,
Holy
I just for me, it's just oh God, just concerned with a society concerned. I would say obsessed with production and consumption, and doing nothing about the climate crisis. We talk about we'll put a barrier outside the Golden Gate Bridge to stop the rising floodwaters, rather than doing something to stop the floodwaters in the first place. Stuff like that. It's insane. And I see you, my friend Skylar, over there in your little chair with your little baseball cap, as someone who's constantly like screaming at the machine, and oh, Skylar's angry or Skylar's insane or whatever. It's like you're the canary in the coal mine, as I see it, with your flavor of it, but saying, can you people see what you're doing with eating animals and destroying the planet? And you're the odd man out versus you're normal. Society's insane.
I'm gonna go about as dark as I can.
I'm gonna be.
I don't scream anymore, Jack, because I'm very aware that humans are not going to change. I mean, this guy just proved it. That's 1960, and we just keep celebrating our stupidity and blaming it on nature or remarketing it, coming up with buzzwords, and it works. It works. And the only way it can possibly work is what this guy just said, this separation, this unrealistic world of our brain where you just calmly go through the day. Back then saying, yeah, nuclear war. But hey, America, or if you're, in Russia, hey, Russia, I don't know. I don't want to get, I'm going to try not to get political.
I don't know, man.
When he said leaders don't lead, that pretty much goes for, and look,
the leaders don't lead. Isn't that wonderful? It's one little comment, like it said 65 years ago. And the bumper sticker is, when the people lead, our leaders will follow. Where we are today. It's up to the people now to come out in the streets, because our leaders collectively certainly are impotent or even running in the wrong direction. And then, politics left side. Let's say hi to our guests. Lulu Marana is glad to see you, Lulu. Paula knows about it. Brilliant adaptation. NC, we're suffering from a terminal case of consumption. And good morning, Corinne.
Which we define ourselves by getting our possessions, showing people pictures of our possessions. In the meantime, creatures that have an inherent purpose on this planet don't do those things, don't need those things, because they actually have a valuable existence. And we turn around and condemn them and look down on them because, those stupid animals don't write books or build buildings where there used to be homes for a myriad of species, and don't buy things and decorate their walls and let the world know, hey, look, this is what I'm about. This is what my life means. And then a fire comes and suddenly you have no meaning anymore.
He goes on to talk about, we're bored in our society and we're constantly entertaining ourselves. There's a Neil Postman book, I think, called, I think that's who wrote it, Amusing Ourselves to Death.
Roger Waters had an album called that, Amused to Death.
Oh, wow. Okay. I mean, look, I watched
Pink Floyd.
I watched some Netflix movie last night. I'm part of it too, man. As I said, I want to, I'm working all day as an activist, banging my head against the machine. And it's like, God, I just want to take a break. And I was outside and I went for a run, stuff like that. But so I just want to turn off. And there's all this endless amusement, of course.
Which takes me back to what I was talking about before, the inherent purpose. Other creatures are just trying to live. Like they're actually carrying out life activities. Our lives have gotten so easy that now we have to seek entertainment. And one of those forms of entertainment is what we put in our mouths, which by itself, I think is embarrassing as a species, that so much of our existences revolves around being entertained by a different flavor or something we haven't tried before, and showing people that we're doing it. But it goes to the intolerable level when that form of entertainment is directly linked to the suffering of other creatures. It's not just us being stupid. It's us being stupid and hurting others in the process of being stupid.
And while hurting others, huge numbers of animals suffer monstrously, say the two vegans here, and I'm not abashed about it at all, then we just push it away, willful ignorance, and continue with the malicious behavior. And I want to make a specific attack, which I hope to set some people off, although if we have vegans watching, they won't. But there was this wonderful TV show, beautifully produced, where the great Stanley Tucci goes to Italy, I think it was, and tours the wonderful foods of the farmlands, of the rural areas. And he's enjoying his, pasta dishes with cheese sauces. And I mean, the whole thing is about living to eat, celebration of eating wonderful food. And almost all of it was torture food. I mean, there was certainly some vegetables and such, and I wouldn't have minded so much. But what you said, it's so egregious because it's the incredible suffering involved in his enjoyment was completely hidden from view and from an intelligent man's consciousness, apparently. Just bizarre.
We need predators again so that we can actually like go outside and think about, be aware and think about how to stay alive. It's like maybe you wouldn't be seeking entertainment so badly if you actually had to spend your life staying alive. And Louis C.K., a comedian, does just the best bit on why it's a problem that we're not in the food chain anymore.
haven't heard that bit.
Yeah, I stopped. Yeah, he got in trouble for a while, and I stopped quoting him. But apparently, society has decided he's done his time.
He's paid his penance so he can be funny again publicly about other topics.
Yeah,
and not molest women, right? Which is good.
Well, he did not do.
So if I may, and again, I'm Skylar. You like I said privately here, you took over like 2 shows because I was busy doing stuff, and Jack is back at least briefly at the moment with a little more bandwidth. So speaking of Eric Fromm, was the social psychologist there, talking about a society of production and consumption. This is just a really quick grab bag, although of course for us we get to chew into things that we show, and it takes more than a few seconds. But this is kind of my ongoing show segment, let's call it, of products in the grocery store, of production and consumption and marketing and advertising of meat products. And meat itself is a word which means animals we raise and torture and kill for food, but it's now called meat. And there's this line of food called Force of Nature. And I was gushing before. We showed some products labels of theirs where they're beautifully designed, and I'm a appreciator of package design. So it's great.
That the one that had the bison you showed me before?
Yeah. So that I was in the Good Earth, which is the really good health food store chain in Marin County, like the best of the best, like Rainbow Grocery in San Francisco, for those. And of course, they carry meat products because they cater to the audience that wants to buy some meat. So it's just weird to go into a health food store which has a lot of vegan items. I mean, they're great for that, but then they also have this products, which is the ultimate humane washing of what we do to animals. And if I may I share the screen again? Okay. This will not be as long as that bit we just. Whoopsie.
This StreamYard thing makes you remove it before you can add something. And even though you can't see it there, it still thinks it's up there. So on your end, remove what you did show me and now give me the new one.
Right. Okay. Share screen.
Terrible interface.
Well, it has advantages and disadvantages, I assume, right?
I'm still exploring. I think I found another one that I'm going to switch to.
Okay. Let's see. Present. Share screen. Share screen. Entire screen. That screen. Share. Sorry, folks. We're trying to figure this out here with the new interface. So there it is. So this is the previous product, Force of Nature. Now notice in tiny little typo above the word ground, it says 100% wild caught. I don't know whether that means 100% wild or 100% caught. But it's ground wild boar. Yum. And it says underneath that, meat from feral swine. Tiny little words you can't see under wild boar. And then, of course, down below, which you can see, free range. I mean, it just got it all. This product has everything, right? And these are next one is Force of Nature, 100% grass-fed ground elk. And underneath that, I guess you can't. I'm showing it full screen on mine, but it's not full screen there. It says,
I don't know.
It's okay. You're doing fine. It's not your fault. It's as big as it goes on my screen. Underneath ground elk, just above his back, it says with grass-fed beef. So it's a blend. It's a varietal, like in wine, where we mix the elk with ground-fed beef, and then of course it's underneath that, under his feet, it says pasture raised, whatever that means. And then
Boy.
last one in that series. So we've got swine or boar, elk and beef, and then we have 100% grass-fed ground bison. I know I want to eat my bison when they're ground up. And of course, this buzzword underneath his hooves, it says regeneratively sourced. Whatever that. Oh, I'm sorry. It does actually say. I read this one before, but it bears repeating. Force of nature defines holistic regenerative grazing as planned rotational grazing, leaving ground cover and allowing pastures adequate recovery time. Sounds good.
God. Oh my God.
But wait, there's more. This is the new ones that I had not seen before. So they're adding to their wonderful line. This is wild boar chorizo, 100% wild caught. And it's there to the left of the number 12. It says free range meat from feral swine again. And then the last one in my wonderful series here about the beauty of force of nature products. Come on, kids. There it is. Hang on. There it is. Another varietal. Venison and beef in my breakfast sausage. Because it's not just enough to slaughter one animal. I want to slaughter two and mix them up. And of course, the good news is to the left of the number 15, which is 15 grams of protein, in case you're wondering what the hell that is. To the left of it, it says lifelong access to pasture. It doesn't mean they access the pasture or they're in the pasture, but they have access to it. Whatever that means.
As if a pasture is so positive in the first place.
Right. It doesn't say how big the pasture is or whether there's, it's anyway, advertising, marketing words. Thank you for letting me show that. I will stop my screen share for the moment and give it back to you, buddy.
Boy, I was going to go back to the boar, 100% wild caught. I'm sorry. You're a massive, I don't know how big the corporation is, but you're distributing this in mass and claiming that all of your boar are wild caught. If it's true, it's bad news.
Right.
But I don't think it even can be true. But let's not pretend that if it is true, it's good news.
Well, it means it was running. We had it in the pen. We have a nice big paddock here. It's at least an acre for 100 of them. And then we chase after them. So they're wild and running away and we catch them.
Yeah, hunters are a lot like the psychos that you have in horror movies where you have a captive and you say, run. I'll give you a chance.
God.
Wait, Jack, I got to take it a little bit further.
Sure.
Because it's bad enough that we objectify other living creatures for entertainment and to put into a bag with special packaging on it. But our best friends are included in that. You gone into a pet store lately? Like especially one of the special small ones that are just the fact that dogs are in our category and everything else still isn't becomes abundantly clear because now we're entertaining our dogs with these crazy things. Like there was like a yak milk thing wrapped with a turkey tendon and dipped in the misery of something else. I'm not kidding, man. The whole store, and I've seen a lot of these, and of course everything's grass-fed now with access to pasture.
Honest Doubter throws in Edward Bernays. I don't know who that is, so thank you for Honest Doubter. I got to look who Edward Bernays is. Would be proud. Quote, freedom flesh slabs. Freedom flesh slabs. And then she adds with, quote, lifetime views of grass.
Yeah. which is what the wildlife in Point Reyes have. They have a view of some things that they can never get to.
The Alcatraz prisoner has lifetime views of the magnificent San Francisco Bay out his prison cell window.
By the way, shameless plug of myself. People need to go watch the video I put out this morning. Evidence of the damage and the illegal violations of livestock in Point Reyes National Seashore going into the elk reserve.
I watched that video, Skylar, and
No, you didn't. I don't even believe you.
So you showed cows probably from Kehoe, headed north
It is. Yeah.
on the east side of Pierce Point Road.
Yep.
But I'm guessing you were shooting from the road, or that your videographer was shooting downhill toward the bay where they were at the far end of where the fence was cut. Is that where those cows were? I was trying to place it where that exactly was. Is that correct?
Yeah. The person who filmed it, not me,
Yeah.
said North Kehoe.
Right.
On,
So
on
that's
the east side. Yeah.
right. So that's down the hill, and then the cows walk all the way up, which is like a half mile up the hill, and get to the elk reserve. Now they're going in, and that may be a point for a further show and not live, where we'll discuss potential point of activism. The point was to free the elk, not let cows get into the elk reserve. And as you said in that video, which you now know that I did watch, much to your surprise, delight, and shock.
Blown away.
Yeah. Well, don't get used to it, buddy. But anyway, that the cows are getting in to do damage and manure and eating, and of course spreading their cattle diseases from their own, miserable confinement into the elk reserve. So that is a point of we should do something about that. We'll talk. Oh, and I'm sorry, Leah had a comment. Thank you, Leah, for showing up. And she wrote, of course, back to the previous, if they can put lies like grass-fed and wild-caught and regenerative, why believe there's even venison or any wild boar at all in it? Well, good point. But in fact, all beef hot dogs, I learned in 1980-something, can be 80% beef and 20% filler in all beef. That's a USDA rule because, of course, they were way back when, controlled by the industry.
It's really just what you as a human being decide that you're going to believe, which means that you already know that you're lying to yourself before you head down that road, and you're still doing it.
Yeah, it is so interesting in this world of like, where do you get your sources? And everybody's, full of disinformation, and I could be full of baloney too, to put it mildly. But you do have a choice about what you put in your mouth, and you can tell whether it's meat or not, or whether it's a vegetable. So we do have control over that. And NC ads caught with free-range bullets. Oh, and Edward Bernays, do you know that name either, Skylar?
I don't.
Was the nephew of Freud. Father of corporate propaganda, invented the idea of, quote, hearty bacon and eggs breakfast, close quote, and got more women to smoke by calling cigarettes freedom torches.
No shit. Really?
My God. So he's the evil nephew of Sigmund Freud? Wow. Didn't know that.
Freedom. Yeah. What's Trump going to name next that convinces people to engage?
Don't go there, please. Don't. We got enough to do without going there. Corinne says, I got an email from Bioneers. Bioneers I have big jupment about because they're the wealthy people who help the environment by, I don't know, raising funds or something. They're touting their courses now, of course, for the upcoming conference. And one of them is, wait for it, regenerative agriculture. How perfect. Bioneers, progressive people of wealthy Marin, and probably the Bay Area, and they don't take on meat, of course. They don't go there because, Marin.
I'm sorry, Jack. I know you don't want me to go there, but with the renaming thing and Trump wanting to be patriotic by renaming the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, I just wonder how many Americans even understand that Mexico was formed before the United States of America was. Before you get too proud.
I mean, even that we call our country America. I was recently schooled on this. Like, the America is the continent, the North American continent, and there's 3 countries on it.
The Americas.
Right. So we're the United States. And, there was this, God, I forget his name, Diego Garcia. What was his someone will throw it in the chat here. He was recently standing in for Jimmy Kimmel. And he's a smart actor and kind of a stand-up comic, really, hosting for Kimmel as a guest host from Mexico. And he was doing wonderful monologues, political stuff, just great. Yeah, and reminding us that you're the United States. We're all in America.
It reminds me of Indians and continuing to use the term Indians. It's like, right. oh, wow, somebody all the way from India. Oh, no, just a mistake that white people made, and we never moved on.
Europeans looking for the West Indies and landing instead somewhere else. Honest Doubter says, highly recommend Adam Curtis's documentary, The Power of Nightmare. Goes over Edward Bernays in detail. So,
I want to share some speciesism. since we were talking about dogs and how dogs get to be in the human category of being entertained by the death of other creatures, uh, after you go to that boutique pet shop, then you go home and you. I was shopping for other things, Jack, and I found these kennels that are now very attractive.
Oh God.
And good news, ladies and gentlemen, your kennels are so beautiful you may forget your pet even exists. It's
You know
like,
that
it's
just
like the prison isn't even there.
just that. God, just that photograph is so so United States.
Oh God, isn't it?
I mean, the money spent on your dog, and of course, I love dogs, I love cats, and I would spend money on them too. But just like, can you step back and just see our culture from outside it for a moment, and the excess we go, and the wealth and the money spent on these, well, unnecessary things to say the least. You think the dog friggin' cares? He just wants to be near you in the house. Generally, depending on the species, is a pack animal. So
Oh, that's not
he's
the
got a
direction I'm
marble.
going, though.
He's
I'm
got a
not-
marble ceiling on his house.
Yeah, I'm not saying that they did this for the sake of the dog. I'm saying it's because they're concerned about how attractive their house is, but
Yeah.
they aren't going to include their family member, their four-legged family member, in the living room. It needs to go into its prison. But you can at least make the prison look attractive so your guests are still impressed.
This really is a grab bag today, folks. We warned you this would happen, so here it is.
I was thinking, here, I'm throwing this up. You don't have to talk about it yet, but this quote: "We don't have to heal the earth; she can heal herself. All we really have to do is stop making her sick." And with dogs, I see people celebrating. Oh, look what I gave to my dog. If they're on a run or a walk or something, you didn't give your dog anything. You just stopped taking. And what did you stop taking? Freedom. In a country that just won't fucking shut up about freedom. I've never seen more prisoners in my life and people not give a shit about freedom. And like the levels of dog owners is massive. But I'm going to go ahead and say 90% are terrible and 95% just aren't as bad. And then actually, I have no idea what the percentages are. I'm just going to stop.
I like that dog opticon. So that's a wonderful quote. Don't put it up again yet, but I thank you for putting it up. And it's black elk, and I don't generally quote Native Americans, although of course they have tremendous wisdom. I'm just usually on the other end of it when an agency, I love this, red washes Native Americans, red washes instead of green washes or humane washes. They say, well, Native Americans tended the land just like we do with our industrial masticating machines.
Just like it.
Just like it. So that is red washing, which is that's not a diss on Native American culture, who certainly lived in more harmony with the land in general by far than our modern society. But it's exploiting them once again, saying we're doing this bad thing because they did it in their name. And now for my next clip, if I may, and I'm editing, by the way, this is going to be short. I just want people, this is your masticator of the week. And this is a horizontal shaft. So I want to give you the shaft of a horizontal shaft masticator so people know what mastication is. I'm going to be talking about this ongoing because we're masticating forests as a way to treat them and manage them and steward them and care for them and trim them and rake the forest like Donald Trump said. I also have that clip too if you're interested. But this is very brief. It's just what a masticating machine is. And this is a relatively small one. This is coming to Tamales Bay State Park Forest, which I'm specifically interested in as an example here in Marin of something we shouldn't be doing to forests.
Last week he showed us a vertical one. It came down on the tree.
Correct. This week it's a horizontal shaft. God help us. Let's see if I can get this up quicker. Share screen. Entire screen and share. Yeah, here we go. And it's up now to you to put it up. Thank you, sir. We're getting this down a little bit faster. And here we go.
Fuck.
turning down the volume a little bit. Treating the forests, reducing the fuel load. This is coming to Marin County, Tamaulipas Bay State Park to reduce the fuel load. Get rid of all that nasty, as you use the word, brush.
Of course, the wonderful reverse beep.
So I'm going to jump ahead here.
Wait, we can't talk about that section for a minute?
Yeah, we can. Hang on. We can.
How about just like I was tempted to say they targeted that one tree, right?
Well, they're doing a whole area here. I was going to skip forward. They're doing a whole area right in front. Everything to camera is gone by the time this video is done. I was going to show them the 30 seconds of it. That's enough. A little bit goes a long way, but that's a masticator, folks.
Okay.
So actually, you know what? I could just skip. I don't need to torture people with this because it's painful for us nature lovers. But this is where it gets to. So that's it. I mean, again, it's sort of like a vegan activist, which we are also watching animal slaughter because you need to show it to people so they see what a masticator is in this case. But, this beauty of wild nature meets not just the human ingenuity of our monstrous machines, but the mentality of we need to tame and kill this stuff because it's a danger. And this is, of course, sold with back to Eric Fromm's talk about using slogans. The language we use, which is, of course, also Orwellian, one of my favorite words every day, selling this to people. If you say we're going to destroy lots of understory plants or just cut down a lot of the forest and turn it into mulch, which is on the ground there, people will be upset. So you come up with make-believe words that sound nice, a more, I guess in this case it's greenwashing, the original term greenwashing. Make it sound nicer than it is. And that was when I was going to say, so this is our tending the forest and treating the forest. Compare that to that wonderful quote by Lakota shaman, Black Elk, which is, we don't have to heal the earth, which is the claim that we have to heal the earth because we suppressed fires or whatever bullshit, or it's too hot and it's overgrown. Bullshit. We don't have to heal the earth. She can heal herself. We have to stop making her sick. Oh, and by the way, fascinating about him, I put these fun facts. I made this little graphic. He was at the Battle of Greasy Grass, which we call the Battle of Little Bighorn. This man born in 1863 who lived in 1950. He also was in the Buffalo Bill Wild West show, and he was also at the 1890 original Wounded Knee Massacre. This man has seen all those events and lived to tell the tale and adapted to survive. He went from what he looked on the left there as a shaman to, in modern Western garb, he took a Christian name. He took on the religion. I mean, he's a survivor. I have nothing but respect for the guy. And just like you could make it reminds me of the movie Little Big Man from 1970, whatever, with Justin Hoffman, who lives to 100 years old and details a life not dissimilar to this man. Maybe it was even based on him. I should do more research, but just fascinating. But his view of the world, which is we just need to stop attacking her.
Chris Cedar says Black Elk Speaks is a must read.
Right. That was the book I kept getting pitched to when I was doing my little bit of research to make this graphic. Yeah. Ray Cooper. Go ahead. Please.
The white man don't know what he don't know.
Indian chief quote, of course. Yeah.
That masticator, my very first thought was, you knocked the tree over. Therefore, now you can chop it up, and anything else that happens to be where the tree landed is going to go too. And maybe the whole plan was to treat the entire area.
Yep.
But I always just wonder, just like your guy, what's his name? Who was the video we started the show with?
Eric Fromm.
Fromm?
F-R-O-M-M, German. Yeah.
Okay. Obviously somebody that I should know if I'm going to pretend to be intellectual.
Well, I do a pretty good job of pretending. It seems I come off that way. I'm really just gescheit. I'm not actually an intellectual.
But the disconnect in our ability to be disconnected whenever we want to, and not understanding that what's being chopped up are homes. And it's a home down here. It's a home here. It's a home here. It's homes for different things. The whole tree and the ground cover and the shorter shrubs, etc. It's all homes. In this net, these obviously what I'm saying is not actually like mind blowing. There's so many things that are obvious, but we don't really stop and think about them because we're so fucking important. We're busy, finding something entertaining to put in our mouths. But before you interrupt, we living in urban sprawl as I did for a while, which is the worst experience of my life. It became impossible for me not to realize, oh, our houses equal the death of everything else's houses. The amount of work that goes into getting rid of life and then laying a foundation that will prevent any further life before then building something absent of life for one of us to spend our existences inside of is actually nightmarish, especially because of the speed at which it's spreading. Everything else on this planet shares its home with other creatures and they've managed to figure it out. We have to get rid of everything else in order to carry on our superior civilized existences.
Well, let me go a shade darker, Skyward. Oh yeah, way. Because you're saying that we destroy homes of everything else to make our homes, which is true, but it's much worse than that. Because this masticator is in a forest. They're not clearing this to build a home.
Oh, right.
We now clear literally thousands and tens of thousands, and the dream is hundreds of thousands of acres of forest because the purported reason, which is BS, speaking of a grab bag of BS, is that it's a fire danger. It's overgrown, which is complete nonsense and non-science.
In other words, their homes are fucked either way, whether we're going to build our homes or whether we're just saying that we're helping their homes.
And again, back to these so-called ecologists who work for Cal Parks and Cal Fire, two agencies here in my backyard, who were walking through this forest. And I was, a spy there along with two others that I brought along. And they were just oblivious to that. They were saying, no, we're going to bring in a monitor. When Laura Sheraton, an ecologist, asked, riparian ecologist, so what about the so-and-so species? I forget what animal she asked about. Then we'll have a monitor here to make sure that we don't kill any of that animal, but ignoring, as your point, that these are ecologists who don't acknowledge these are wildlife homes. No, this is overgrown vegetation or brush or
are they truly ecologists? Because I feel like people just swap that word in whenever they want to. Because I first became disheartened with scientists when I was doing my shark work. Not that all scientists fit into this category, but they also are in a disconnected state. And biologists can tell you all these things about the anatomy of an animal, and they'll go out and hook a shark and pull it up on the boat so that they can measure it and blast some shit in its eye and test its reflexes and then release it because they made its life so much better. And now we're going to save the species because we wrote down some shit in a book. And they don't think about the connection with the other creatures there very often, like would be the ecological aspect of it. And it just amazes me that a biologist can be ecologically disconnected. Like, how does that even happen?
Yeah,
because you spent your life in the classroom and
yes, I was just going to say,
not actually immersed by nature and the environment of the creature that you are studying. You can't separate a creature's environment from the environment if you're actually trying to understand that animal.
Sure you can. I mean, we do all the time, but yeah, you can. And that's, of course, we live separate. I mean, I'm separate from nature for the most part. I acknowledge that, but I like to think I'm self-aware enough to say I'm going to do the least destruction I can. An honest outer says silviculture compared with agriculture and is greater than agriculture. Natives were masters of this, using existing nature to seed useful fruits and foods versus clear cutting. Yeah, and I mean, of course, there were smaller populations as well, but they were living on the land in nature, so they were much more connected to it, obviously. So I do kind of aggrandize Native American culture in that way. At the same time, today, modern Native Americans who, of course, exist and live in our culture are a mixed bag. Because they've been educated and conditioned and destroyed by our culture, subsumed by our culture.
Read Marty's quote or comment.
Yep, Marty Nissen. Hi, Marty. Natives lived in teepees that were not permanent and allowed nature to reestablish itself as they moved in a nomadic fashion. Beautiful. Right. Not laying concrete foundations and clearing everything away from them. Good point.
Yeah, which something else interesting comes along with that. We are not a particularly robust creature, as as impressed as we are with ourselves. There was a reason that more, I don't know, what's the word I want that isn't offensive today? Early man was migratory, nomadic, because you needed to follow the weather and you needed to follow the seasons. And, I'm sure people will say you needed to follow the migrating animals because you were hunting them, but you also migrated to find vegetation that you could consume in different habitats. But we just aren't built to stay in one spot and endure the changing seasons unless of course you manipulate your surroundings so that you can survive there, which means air conditioning, which means a heater, which means clothing, which means stealing the water from the rivers and having it redirected to your toilets and your yards, our precious fucking squares of green that nobody even touches, but we're slaves to. It's more important to for your neighbor to think you have a green lawn than it is for wildlife to be able to consume water.
Skyward, get off the grass. You're ruining the grass.
I know, and then there's that.
I mean, that's more a thing here in the West where water is precious. At least sometimes it is.
So it's not just, as Marty said, the fact that nature could recover once they moved on. It's the fact that that was still, whether it was intentional or not, an acknowledgement that we physically need to move on.
So, speaking of which, I have more masticator stuff, and I'm not going to show
take any more masticator.
No, I know. We're done for today. I want to show a couple minutes. Thank you for that, sir. I have a fuel specialist in a jumpsuit standing in a masticated area, destroyed forests, and it's for another show. But it's just fascinating how he's acknowledging while he's saying this is this treatment area that we've done, and we're still learning. He's just destroyed a forest, but he's still learning whether that's an effective treatment. And then he goes on to say, well, there's too much mulch here, and it's actually killing the soil because the mulch, the chips of dead trees and plants is so thick that it's poisoning the soil, and it creates its own ground fuel fire hazard. So they just changed it. They call it, canopy. The tops of trees have all been cut down, and now they still have a separate fire danger, what's on the ground. So they haven't removed fire danger. They just moved it from living top of trees to dead chips on the ground. And he himself is admitting this because, he's not the PR front man saying how great it is. He's like a researcher trying to understand, actually, what have we done here that's effective and what isn't? Oops, we've killed too many elephants. Me, Alan Savory. Sorry, it didn't work out. Oopsie. So you take it away for 60 seconds, Skylar. I got someone at the door, and I think it's a package I got to sign for. So it's all you. It's all on you, buddy. Can you carry the show for a minute?
Well, I'm going to talk about Jack while he's gone. This is a scene from his demonstration, still fighting to stop Cal Fire and whoever else is involved in the atrocity of destroying things that are healthy. It's not funny without Jack here. I was going to joke. I was very impressed that not only are kids willing to still go out and hug a tree, but they're willing to hug a tree that looks like the Swamp Thing. What else did I want to talk about? We got to start getting people to call in. I had to block somebody who claims he's an independent, but he's a blatant Trumpster. Lulu, we could use a new monkey wrench gang. And Corinne agreed with you. That's Andy the tree. Oh, no kidding, Andy. Good for you, Andy.
Thank you.
That was Andy in the tree, Corinne.
Yeah, have you played this yet, or you're just setting it up, looks like?
I just did a screenshot.
Okay, and I've got a screenshot too. But yeah, I want to shout out to my friend Peter Rota, who's in San Francisco, who came up and really worked on that tree and spent a ton of time. I was basically assisting him. But then he got COVID the night before our event, along with some other people that were going to come in this affair. And these are the folks that did come. God, it's so funny. I have exactly that picture queued up on my screen I was going to show, and you beat me to it. So thank you for doing this. So Saskia is the Chainsaw Ranger on the bottom left. Paula, our own Palele chat, which is pronounced incorrectly intentionally because it's funny, came out and really just was amazing and high energy as our poison sprayer expert. Let's see. Tree is Andy, who stepped in for Peter and did an amazing job. Leah, of course, with her little plastic bullhorn there. Corinne, Sydney, and let's say I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. Who runs? Oh my gosh, she runs the Occidental Retreat. I am just blanking on names. I'm sorry. Who's the hard-hatted woman to the picture left of Andy? Hello. Who runs the retreat that you visited, Skylar? God, this is called brain addled. Brain addled. In fact, this show won't end until I get her name. But it's just wow. Yeah, it's so funny when you grab at something really hard. It's like sand; it just goes away. So I'm blanking on her wonderful Kathy Cullen. Kathy Cullen is the other person there. So all these folks came out. Oh, and Lee Glickstein is even somewhere around here, and of course I'm somewhere taking the picture. But this was our crew that marched in a parade, and it was. You asked me how it went, and here was the funny thing: is the Chainsaw Ranger, which is the guy with the crazy chainsaw helmet. If you can see that on the bottom left of the picture with the red helmet, a chainsaw coming out of the head, was kind of theoretically the star of the show. But we wanted to have the Chainsaw Ranger have something to attack to show what the Cal Parks and Cal Fire folks would do, which is kill trees and shrubs as well, which are harder to illustrate or dramatize. But we came out with this tree, and lo and behold, the parade children of Marin had very different plans. So instead of us focusing on this chainsawing going on, they ran out to hug this tree. And Andy, was the perfect man for the job, a gentle giant, an 11-foot tall tree that these children ran over and wanted to hug. And then he started putting his arms out like, anyone want a hug? And just it was so wonderful. Kids came out and hugged a tree. And our point was just to get attention so that parents would say, what is this? What are they doing? And then we would hand them a flyer to educate them about the issue. So it was fine. It was just so, as an activist, you plan an activity and then it goes how it goes.
So you didn't do the actual...
We did as well, but the other issue was there was so much noise at the parade. We were behind this cool young band, but they were blasting music on these giant concert speakers at their feet on a truck, just sound washing us, so you could barely hear our music. Which I wasn't carrying giant speakers on a truck, so it was just hard to do it while we're moving and while we were short staffed because we got hit by COVID. And an 80-year-old man in our group who will be unnamed, Lee, kind of was starting to suffer heat stroke. He had to sit down for a while. So it was, Lee ended up carrying the banner, and Leah ended up carrying the banner. It was a crazy day, but we got a lot of flyers out. It was worth the effort. It was one of our many appearances coming up. We'll be doing more activism for folks who want to speak up for trees and do something positive in the world and feel better in face of all the insanity Skylar and I are going on about. Contact me at treespiritproject.com. I've got a contact page, or just jack@treespiritproject.com. And there are ways to get involved. We're going to be doing more specifically about no deforestation. Don't cut down trees to prevent wildfires. It's insane. It actually creates more heat and more wildfire danger. You treat houses instead.
Well, that was a great opening clip. It gives us a lot to think about. Quite the grab bag. Lots of good stuff today on this show.
And for once, we'll maybe end on time, which is kind of nice. Then you have a 60-minute show that isn't daunting to people. Like Gary Yourofsky just did another live interview, and it was 2 hours or 2 hours and 20 minutes. And, for people who are a fan of him like I am, I'll watch it. I'll get to all of it. But it is daunting to see a show that long.
That being said, thank you, everyone, for being here. We're going to wrap it up. And Jack, thank you.
My pleasure, Skylar. And I will show, if people want to see more of that, well, to hell with what they want in this moment. If you want to see more of that, it's a 60-minute clip, and we can talk about it. Paula said Corinne handed out tons of info flyers, too, a very successful endeavor. And, thank you, Lulu and Corinne and Leah and everyone else. There are more people watching this show than you know, Skylar. They watch it after the fact. Just because we get people, oh yeah, I tuned in for a while, from work or in the car or whatever. So appreciate it, folks. If you like the show, please make a comment, a brief one, in the chat of this, because that helps as I say, the almighty algorithm get our show out to more folks. We love to build an audience, and I even have this dream of, which is possible, getting Gary Yourofsky on this show with us. We don't have a big audience, but we both admire him enough to be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, Paula, I probably have 100 hours worth of content on the same channel. If you can handle 2 hours, I'll challenge you to go 3.
And if you can do 3, it won't stop there.
All right, we'll see everyone next Tuesday.
See ya. Thanks again, Skylar. Over now, folks.